Thanks a lot. Well, let's get straight to it. What I will do in the next hour, I'll give you a lot of examples of trademark issues on the internet and how they have challenged our concepts of trademark law and made it more complicated. Let me first introduce a little bit about 4 business models on the internet, because if we are going to understand these trademark challenges, we need to understand what is the marketing and business rationale behind the different activities. Apart from that, I will look at advertising, and I'll look at marketing of goods and services on web shops and online marketplaces, and come with these different examples. The best work on business models on the internet has been done, in my view, by Professor Michael Rappa, who has made a web page where he's updating continuously and explaining the business models that are specific on the internet. And the first of them is the manufacturer model, where someone manufactures a good and delivers it directly, communicating directly with the customers on the internet. The other one is the merchant model, where basically someone is marketing on the internet products produced by others. Now, these first 2 models, we know them in the physical world. We can compare that to something in the physical world, but basically the physical world activity has been moved online. But when we're coming into the brokerage business models, have developed business models that really don't exist in the physical world, but exist more or less only in the online world. And we see many of these business models where the business model is basically connecting different people on the internet for them to conduct a commercial transaction. And the business model is you get a fee for connecting these people to each other. That could be some of the examples I'm going to come up with here. And extremely important on the internet is advertising. Advertising in many different shapes or forms. Of course, we know advertising from the physical world as well, but new ways of advertising that has no parallel in the physical world has come up on the internet. And that raises a lot of trademark issues. Yesterday, we heard a lot of copyright issues that have come up with the internet. I'm going to stick to trademark issues today.
You must appear.
Yeah. Some of the other business models here, I'm not going to go into them. It's hard competition so early in the morning here, but some of the other business models on the internet, I'm not going to talk about those, but stick to the first 4 examples. Now, looking at advertising, the first issue I will raise is display advertising. Display advertising, we know that it is created in a very, very complex ecosystem on the internet, where basically there is a supply and demand side. The supply side will be people who have websites that has space on them that is offered for advertisers. And the demand side will be advertisers that wants people to see the advertising for people to click on and then generate some kind of commercial activity. But to make that work, an enormous ecosystem has been built up with a lot of intermediaries that are then connecting these parties to each other. That's necessary because in the online environment, it would be impossible for the website holder to get in contact with the potential advertisers. So basically, we have a supply and demand, people who want to advertise and people who want to place advertising on web pages. This has become one of the most important ways to generate income on the internet. And technically what we call, when someone is providing a space on the web page, it's called ad space. And whenever someone, as a user of a web page, goes online accesses a web page and sees an advertising, that's called an ad impression. And then the payments are in accordance to the contractual relationship between the parties. Then it's calculated in regard to the number of people who have been presented with that piece of advertising. Now, what happens here is this is automated. That's again where the internet begins to change the concept of things in comparison to the physical world, where in the physical world it was a very physical, there was a lot of manual work in advertising. But now it is almost completely automated, this process. And that, of course, raises a number of issues. Now, advertising can come in many shapes, forms, pictures, text, audio, video, and different kinds. And if we take this example here, we can see a website. There's many different places advertising can be placed: in the banner, in mid of the page, and so-called skyscrapers as well. And each of these spaces will generate income when advertising is placed in these spaces. We also have pop-up ads. We know them. You come on and a new picture comes before you, and there pop under ads that you cannot see until the browser window has been closed down. But they also will generate income. Now, a case came up before the European Court of Justice concerning this display advertising. Basically, the Daimler Group holds this figurative trademark, the Mercedes-Benz. Everybody knows it's one of the most recognized brands in the world. The case has its origin in Hungary, where there was something called Egyhüt Garage. They engage in retail sale and repair of Mercedes cars. They had an after-sale service contract with the Daimler Group that lasted from 2007 to 2012, and in accordance with that, they were entitled to use the trademark I showed you as an authorized Mercedes dealer for that period of time. Now, the garage had contracted an online display advertising company called MIT to provide online advertising for that period of time. After the end of the contract, there was still some of the advertising that remained online. So basically, Egyhüt Garage asked their advertising provider to withdraw the advertising where they used the Mercedes-Benz logo and trademark after the end of the contract with the Mercedes Group. But this world is so automated that sometimes, even if you make such a recall of advertising, the advertising might not be recalled. And there might have been an incentive for some of the advertisers to remain with the advertising, because having advertising for Mercedes can be very attractive for the advertiser, even if they were no longer retaining a revenue from the garage. Now the question before the European Court of Justice was this, in regards to the garage, an infringement of the trademark? And the court found that the term authorized Mercedes dealer in advertising constituted use of a trademark in the course of trade affecting the origin function of the trademark, since it indicated an economic link between the companies. Okay, now we know that. Display advertising using a trademark that is used in the course of trade. Well, that makes a lot of sense. But they also said an advertiser cannot be held liable for the independent actions of others with whom the advertiser has no direct or indirect dealings and who do not act by order and on behalf of the advertiser, but on their own initiative and in their own name. This again makes a lot of sense. You can only be held liable for the actions that you are conducting yourself, but if someone else is then, especially in the online environment, taking advantage of that, that is not your responsibility. And the court concluded that a third party who is named on a website advertisement giving the impression that there is a commercial relationship between him and the trademark holder does not make use of that sign where that advertising has not been placed by that third party, or if that advertisement has been placed by that third party with the consent of the trademark holder, where the third party has expressly requested the website to remove the advertisement. There's something it struck me about this ruling, because I was asking myself, what is it really the court wants to know here? It seems to me that the result is self-evident. You have a garage that plays an advertising in accordance with a licensing contract where they have the right to use the trademark, and then they pull back the advertising when the licensing is over. And now the court is in doubt whether he is still infringing after he did everything in his power to remove the advertising. I think what is really behind this problem is really an issue of understanding and conceptualizing how is it the advertising space and the advertising environment is working. And that leads me to one of my key points. That is, if we are going to analyze legal questions on the internet, we need to understand the technology and the business environment, because we will not be able to apply the law unless we have some fundamental understanding of the technology. So one of the key things in any case that comes before a court of law, whether criminal or civil, that is being presented, is that we need to have technical expertise available that is capable of explaining to the parties and to the court how this is functioning. And I think this case here is an example where really a little more emphasis should have been paid into understanding how the advertising world was functioning, because I don't really see the trademark problem here, that it really needs to go all the way to the European Court of Justice to tell us that this garage did nothing wrong at all. Now, you can compare display advertising a little bit to advertising in the physical world in a way, well, you can see banners, you can see commercials in magazines, newspapers, and so on. It's a little bit the same with display advertising. Display advertising is just much more advanced and much more automated. But there are ways to advertise on the internet that does not exist in the physical world. That's completely unique for the online world. And one of those is the way Google and other search engines are generating income. And basically playing on the functionality of search engines. Search engines are key in the way the internet functions. Basically, search engines indexes the open available internet information by scraping the code of websites. And then they are listing that in different ways in accordance with the algorithm that is running the search engine. By making the search engine available to users, users can make a very simple search, or they can make very, very refined searches. If they use these sub-features that is available, you can make a very, very fine-tuned search, but you can also simply make a very simple search. Now, the algorithm is the key of any search engine. The better the algorithm that is able to generate the results that the users want, the more popular the search engines will be. Because what it's all about, the business model for a search engine will be to give people what they want. So if I'm making a search, the algorithm has to create the search results that what I was really looking for. So if I'm looking for something legal in Latvia, and I'm searching for trademark protection, Latvian legislation, online, then I want to have a lot of results that then reflects the legal situation in Latvia. That's what I'm interested in. I don't want to know something about what is going on in some other country. So the algorithm has to be made so I get what I want. And that can be used in many ways to create advertising. One of these issues of using search engines was up in another case before the European Court of Justice that involved these two companies here that worked in the area of producing these sorting machines. The one company was the best company, Belgian Electronic Sorting Technology, that produced these kinds of sorting machines. The other company in the case, VC, also produced sorting machines. Now, VC used the following meta tags on their web page: best plus Helios and best plus Genius. What is a meta tag? Well, a meta tag is a way to communicate with search engines. So you embed in the programming code of a web page certain information that is not displayed on the web page. They are indexed by the search engine, so the search engine can read the words best and Helios and best and Genius when scraping the content on the VC web page. But for users of the VC web page, these words will not be visible. It is a way to exploit the functionalities of the search engines to create advertising. So basically, VC is using trademarks of their competing company on their own web page to attract people who want to search for sorting machines made by the Belgian company. They are attracting, through the search result, attracting some of that traffic to their own web page, giving them a competitive advantage. Now, we have a directive on misleading and comparative advertising, and the court found that the term advertising in that directive covers the use of meta tags on a website's metadata. So basically, this kind of activity has been found to be advertising by the European Court of Justice. And that is very interesting for us now in trademark law, because in the new trademark regulation and the new directive, we have expanded the scope of protection of trademarks to include using the sign in comparative advertisements in a manner contrary to the directive I just mentioned. So now, after the introduction of the new trademark regulation, an activity carried out, as we saw it in this case by the VC company, of using trademarks as metadata to create advertising through search engine optimization will be an infringement of the trademark of the right holder company. Now, this is certainly an example where we, sitting in a court hearing a case like that, need to understand the technology here, because else it will be completely incomprehensible. And if you're only using the glasses from the physical world, we will not be able to understand this, because this is specifically something that relates to the online environment. Now, something that is also very important when we're looking about search engines is the way they are applying the so-called AdWords, optimized advertising. Fundamentally, a search engine is very costly to run. It has to be maintained, it has to be very functionable, and of course they have to have a source of revenue. And that has always been a bit of a challenge. How does a search engine create revenue? And one way they can do that is providing optimized search results. So basically, when doing a search in accordance with the algorithmic rules, certain search results should come up as the best search result. But if the search engine can put the best search results for paying customers, they can have a source of revenue. So that's the fundamentals of this kind of technique. It is a way for the search engines to generate income by having search results paid by advertisers. Let's take a search here. Google Spain, and here is the search field. Let's search for logo design guarantee. press the button, and we come up with 6,500,000 search results. And the page will look something like this. The natural search result, number 1, will be logo design guarantee.co.uk. That will come up as the first natural search result in accordance with the algorithmic rules of the search engine. This is the registered trademark for a company doing this kind of design work. Logo design guarantee is a protected, registered trademark. Search result number 2 will be a Trustpilot that is giving information to consumers about the quality of the logo design guarantee company. Now, up in the top, there is an advertisement. And that is a paid advertising search result using the AdWords service. And that is for a competing company, freelogoservices.com. This company has bought the advertising for the trademark of another company, and it is creating this paid search result at the top. So, a trademark of another is being used to market a competing product within the same product category. How are we going to determine if there is a trademark violation of that or not? Is this a violation of the logo design guarantee trademark, or is it a legal way to do advertising? That has come up in a number of very interesting cases, some of the most important cases concerning trademarks on the internet. The first one was the Google case concerning Google versus the Louis Vuitton company. What basically was the facts of the case, by entering Louis Vuitton into the search engine of Google, it triggered AdWords for web pages offering non-genuine versions of Louis Vuitton products. The AdWords used Louis Vuitton visibly in the advertising. And there was the opportunity for advertisers to combine the words Louis Vuitton, the protected trademark, with words like imitation, replica, and copy. The court had to decide two things. They had to decide the liability of the advertisers, the ones buying the optimized search results of the search engine. And they had to decide on the liability of the search engine that was offering this service as part of their business model. And basically the court found that by using an identical keyword that was a protected trademark, they were infringing that trademark if it was creating confusion with the consumers. So basically, the test would be that if the use of the AdWord was done in a way where there was created no connection between the advertiser and the trademark holder, that could be okay. But it would not be okay if it indicated to the consumer that there was a commercial connection between the companies. So basically, not all advertising using AdWords, using the trademark of another, will be a violation of that trademark. It completely depends on the way the advertising is being presented. Is it confusing to the consumer? Now, the other question that the court had to decide was whether a search engine in itself would be liable for trademark violation by hosting these optimized search results. And there the court found that making such a service available was not use of a trademark in the course of trade. That was a very, very search engine friendly result. I think it's a good result. It's a little bit like what we heard yesterday with the linking decision. I think because you could argue many different ways in trademark logic, you could argue many things about this GS Media case yesterday about copyright logic. But it is also that when we have some old legislation, copyright law and trademark law, that was created for the physical world, and all of a sudden all these new technologies are coming, how do we apply that law in the online world? And sometimes we just have to bend the principles a little bit to protect this new innovation and all these new opportunities on the internet. This is an example of that, because basically, if the court had reached another result, it would have been very, very difficult for search engines to operate and for search engines to generate income. And if it's difficult for search engines to operate, we have no chance of searching the internet. All this information on the internet would just be chaotic. We will not be able to access it. So, like linking decision yesterday, this is also a question about making trademark law, making it relevant in the online world, and not closing down the internet simply because we have trademarks, but striking a fair balance between the interest of the right holders and the interest of a well-functioning internet. So the court simply applied the e-commerce directive's liability exemption and said, well, as long as the search engine is not aware that an infringement is happening, they are free of liability. But there will be a notice and takedown opportunity here. So if the right holder finds that their rights are being infringed, they can go to the search engine and ask them to take down that advertisement. And if the search engine then removes it after this request, they will be free of any liability. So I think they have really struck a very fine balance here between the interest of the trademark holders and the interest of the internet, which is the interest of everyone. There came another case up concerning these mobile buildings that are used by construction workers. A company called Portakabin held the Benelux trademark Portakabin for buildings and building materials. Now, a competing company, Primakabin BV, sold second-hand mobile buildings. Primakabin had bought Portakabin as an AdWord using advertising for Primakabin's sale of used products coming from the Portakabin company. The court found in this case that it was not in itself prohibited for the second-hand dealer to use the trademark of Portakabin in their AdWords. It could not be prohibited as such to make advertising using this trademark unless the sale of those goods in the light of their volume, presentation, or their poor quality risked seriously damaging the image which the trademark holder had succeeded in creating for its trademark. So this is a bit of a difficult test to do. Well, basically, it's okay to use the trademark of another to market the second-hand product, but it could be done in a way that would be detrimental to the value of the trademark of the original trademark holder. There's come a case in Germany, and I take this case here because I think the German court is really formulating the test applied by the European Court of Justice in a very clear way. The German Supreme Court confirmed that users can book a third-party trademark as an AdWord as long as the resulting ad is shown in a specially marked advertising block that is visually set apart from the list of natural search results. What is not allowed is any reference in the ad to the trademark itself, the trademark holder, or the trademark holder's product, and the URL shown in the ad must also indicate a different economic origin. Internet users looking at the ad must be able to realize that this is not the trademark holder offering its goods and services, but a third party. Basically, the example I gave first will be a completely legal use of the trademark of another, because the trademark of the design logo company was not displayed in the advertising. It was clearly indicated that it was a competing company. There was no use in the advertising itself of the trademark. There's no confusion of the consumer. But we have to acknowledge that the trademark of another has been used in a piece of advertising, attracting traffic to a competing company working in exactly the same field of work. I think this is a brilliant way to really sum up the situation here. We have to evaluate if there is a confusion of the internet users. A special case came up in regards to networks of companies that are working together. Interflora is a very well-known name. They hold a UK trademark called Interflora. Interflora runs a global flower delivery network where all kinds of flower shops can then connect into this network, and then you can have delivered flowers ordering here in Latvia, and they can be delivered to an aunt in the US. That's very good. Marks & Spencer is this big retail chain that is marketing a variety of products, including flowers. Marks & Spencer had bought the AdWord Interflora, making advertising for the Marks & Spencer flower online delivery service. Now, the court had to look in this way by seeing, is there created a confusion with the consumers in regards to this? And the court found that the trademark origin function would be affected if internet users searching for the word Interflora may incorrectly be led to believe that the Marks & Spencer flower delivery service was part of the commercial network. It should be taken into consideration that the network is composed of a large number of retailers which vary greatly in terms of size and commercial profile. In that situation, it might be particularly difficult for the reasonably well-informed and reasonably observant internet user to determine, in the absence of any indication from the advertiser, if they are part of the network. So we have to, certainly when we are dealing with these commercial networks, to make sure that the use of the AdWords is not creating a confusion of a commercial connection between the advertiser and the trademark holder that is running this network. It's not easy to decide cases on AdWords, and they are extremely important, but through these cases, the European Court of Justice has provided a lot of clarification as to the use of these kinds of marketing techniques. Now I will look a little bit at marketing of goods and services on web shops and online marketplaces. So we leave the advertising world and go directly to the marketing of goods and services. Now, one of the most important things on the internet is domain names, and I think Tobias will come back to domain names, but basically a domain name is a technical function that identifies a location on the internet. We could call that the post office function. But it is in reality also a content indicator. So the technical functionality has been expanded in practical life to also that most domain names actually indicate a little bit about what is going on the website. So if we have the website of the Latvian Patent Office, the domain name or the abbreviation will indicate to users that this has something to do with the government of Latvia and has something to do with the Patent Office. So there is a content indicator. And there is an indication of origin of content, especially in regards to well-known trademarks. If we take this domain name here, erling.myname.com, and then there's a lot of content in that. If we look at the domain name level and the content level on the domain name level, the www refers to the software application. Over here is what we call the root that is run by ICANN over in California. It's going to be, its principle still under US law, but on the 1st of October this year, there will be a complete, the US government control of ICANN will be absolved, and ICANN will be a completely independent international organization running the internet, and they're running what we call the root, that is basically governing the traffic between the top-level domains. And then we have the first-level domain. Here, the .com, that's what we call the top-level domain. There are the generic ones like .com, and then there are the country codes like the Latvian .lv, run by a registry. And from that registry, someone can buy the second-level domain. And that is what is key in domain name law. And we can see for this domain name, my name, it indicates something about what is happening on the web page. It has something to do with names. The rest of the string here is content. The Erling here is not part of the domain name, that's part of the content. The domain name is myname.com. That is what we are looking at here. And then there can be all kinds of documents and everything that can be accessed on the web page. Now, coming back to this case here from the European Court of Justice, there was also in that case a question of the registration and use of a domain name. And basically what the European Court of Justice said, that the term advertising covers the use of a domain name. So basically, by using trademarks in a domain name, it falls under the category of advertising. It is part of advertising the activity. The domain name has an advertising function. But they also said, by contrast, the registration of a domain name as such is not advertising. So the European Court of Justice here distinguishes the situation of the registration in itself, the passive registration. It becomes advertising in the moment that the domain name comes into use. I think it's a very important distinction, and I'm sure Tobias will come with some examples of this. Now, domain names are absolutely critical to the way the internet is functioning, and it's critical to the way that companies are advertising themselves. But one issue that comes up with the internet is the availability of the internet, because basically most websites that are put on the internet will be available all over the world. Now, what consequence does that have for trademark law? Well, in principle, if we took the complete extreme road of trademark protection, any use on a web page of a trademark protected anywhere in the world would be an infringement if it's marketing goods and services, because in principle the web page will be available in every country. So if something is registered only on the Christmas Island south of India, that would prohibit the use of a trademark only registered on Christmas Island for 2,000 people. That would be detrimental to the internet. The internet would not be able to function. So we need to find some criteria to when is the use of a trademark on a web page, when is that an infringement or not. And it came up already in a UK court ruling concerning the sign Crate and Barrel that was registered in the UK as a trademark. On a web page of a shop that had a physical location in Dublin, Ireland, the sign Crate and Barrel was used. So the protected trademark was used on the web page marketing the same kinds of goods and services. The website could be accessed in the UK. However, the website was merely intended to address a local Irish clientele of the shop's premises in Dublin. No internet trade was carried out from the shop, so there was no selling of goods in the UK. But of course, you could come in the situation that there was a person located in the UK, gone to the webpage, then traveled to Ireland to go to the shop and bought something in the shop. That could theoretically happen. So theoretically, there could be some kind of marketing activity in the UK, but it was not the intention. The intention was really to communicate to local users of the shop in Dublin. And the court found no use in the course of trade in the UK since no positive steps had been taken to penetrate the UK market. So already here, very early in this UK court ruling, it was found that the mere fact of website accessibility was not enough to create an infringement. This question was also up in a very, very important ruling concerning trademarks on the internet, L'Oreal versus eBay. A long conflict that has now been resolved basically between the beauty product producer L'Oreal and the marketplace eBay. eBay is one of the companies that falls under the brokerage model. They are not selling their own products, but they are connecting people who are looking for something they want to buy and people who want to sell something. They have created this virtual marketplace where buyers and sellers can meet. And the court confirmed the finding that we had already seen in the UK ruling. The mere fact that a website is accessible from the territory covered by the trademark is not sufficient for trademark violation. But it falls to national courts to assess on a case-by-case basis whether there are any relevant factors on the basis of which it may be concluded that an offer for sale is targeted at consumers in that territory. So we have to see, based on all the evidence in the case, is there a targeting of consumers in an area where the trademark is protected? What could those things be? Well, it could be language. Some web pages have specific language options. So if a web page has a Latvian language option, many things would indicate that it is targeting consumers in Latvia. If it's in English, you couldn't not necessarily make the same assumption, because some languages are more universal than others, but Latvian language certainly, yeah? Contact details, either something to indicate a connection to that country. Currency options. Now with the euro, of course, that becomes problematic, but it is a factor. For instance, if there is a payment option in Swedish krona, it would indicate a connection, a marketing activity in Sweden. Customer service, return policy, advocacy features, product selection. Some product selections are maybe more targeting a specific group of people that are located in a specific country than making it generally accessible. Pricing and VAT policy, and the trademark position in the territory. It is not necessarily an easy test to perform, and it has to be done very, very, very carefully, because if we are expanding the protection of the trademark, we are also we are impeding free trade on the internet. On the other hand, we have to protect trademarks, so we have to make sure that there is no trademark violation through marketing in an area where the trademark is protected. Now, there are other ways that the internet in an advanced way can be used to market goods and services, and one technique that is used by these marketplaces, these brokerage companies, are internal automated search results. So I will give you an example of that. We all know Amazon. They are the world's largest online retailer. Now, Amazon's business model is basically combining two distinct online business models themselves. They are brokerage. They are brokering contact between third-party vendors and consumers. But at the same time, they're also a merchant. They have their own stock, and they're selling directly to customers as well. And very often, when searching for a product, there will be options both connecting to third-party vendors, but also the option of buying directly from Amazon company. Now that came up in a case before the UK High Court of Justice in the case we know as the Lush case. Amazon operates a website marketing sale of a variety of products. On the Amazon webpage, original products bearing the trademark Lush that is registered for cosmetics and similar products from the Cosmetic Warrior company were not for sale. So on Amazon, there was no sale of products from the trademark holder. No cosmetics from the trademark holders was for sale. Some Lush-branded products outside the registered trademark were sold, however, something that had nothing to do with cosmetics. Amazon had bought Google AdWord Lush, creating advertisements, some using the word Lush, others not using the word. And here the court could easily determine, well, if the AdWord, remembering what the German court had said, if the AdWord used the trademark, it would be a violation of the trademark. So the court found that there was a trademark violation by the use of the trademark lost directly in the AdWords advertising. However, that is not the interesting thing in this case here. The interesting thing is how the website is presenting internal search results. So, if searching for Lush on the web page, there would come a drop-down menu containing products directly competing with original Lush products. You cannot see this drop down here, unfortunately. It was not possible for me to recreate. But basically, by doing that, there would come a drop-down menu with competing cosmetic products that was coming from other companies than the Cosmetic Warrior company that held the trademark. Concerning the drop-down menu, the court found that there was an infringement of the trademark affecting the origin, advertisement, and investment function of the trademark. The origin function was infringed because an average consumer would not without difficulty ascertain that the products did not originate from the Cosmetic Warrior company. The advertising function was affected because the ability of attracting customers relied on the quality of the reputation of the Lush trademark, which quality was bound to be damaged by Amazon's marketing of competing products with no indication of origin. And the investment function was affected because Cosmetic Warrior was a successful company with a reputation of ethical trading and had due to this decided not to market products on Amazon, which business practices some consumers found repugnant. The investment in reputation connected to the Lush trademark would thus be damaged. There was a business strategy for the trademark holder exactly not to market on Amazon, and Amazon here is then directing consumers that are looking for Lush cosmetic products to competing companies. And they found trademark infringement due to these three arguments, found trademark violation. Now, something else also happened. There was, under the search result, repeated use of the word Lush below the search box and in so-called related searches. And again, they were marketing competing products that you can see here, some bathing bombs and balm cosmetics. So there was a marketing of products that directly competed against the Cosmetic Warrior company in these related searches. Here, the court found that there was an infringement of the trademark affecting the origin, advertisement, and investment function due to the same reasons as before. Now, when searching for Lush, there would also come in the side panel, there would also come up some different options here, and one of the options would be Lush. If one was to press that link, one would be taken to non-cosmetic, genuine products that was branded Lush by another manufacturer. And here the court found that there was no infringement of the trademark due to the fact that there was an actual marketing of genuine branded products that did not compete with the Cosmetic Warrior company. I think it's a brilliant ruling. And what is brilliant about it is that it's really looking at so many different situations and finding infringement in some situations and not infringement in other situations. So I can really recommend this court ruling if one is presented with case examples of internal search results. Because the court brilliantly weighs the interests against each other here and really applies a very logical test to this kind of thing. Now, we heard about linking yesterday. Well, linking has also a consequence for trademarks. And basically, hyperlinking is one of the functionalities of the HTML code that we use when browsing the internet, making it possible to go directly from one web page to another. It is absolutely essential for the functioning of the internet. Without hyperlinking, the internet wouldn't function. Now, this came up in a case from the Danish Commercial and Maritime Court, Diesel versus Fabric. Fabric was a Danish limited liability company. Fabric ran a web page called fabric.nu and connected web shop with sales of clothing from different producers. Diesel did not deliver directly to Fabric, but Diesel products were for sale on the website. The website had a linking repository called Suppliers that included a link to the official Diesel website. Now the question was this a violation of the trademark of Diesel? And the commercial court found that it was. It gave a false impression about the Fabric store's relationship with the Diesel group, including false notions of Fabric stores were authorized dealers. So it is not authorized in a situation running a shop, even if you are selling products from Diesel in this case, to have a hyperlink under a repository called Suppliers, if it is indicating a commercial connection or indicating that this web shop is an authorized dealer here. I think it's probably taking trademark law to the utmost limit here. I don't think we can stretch it much longer than this. But the commercial court has to weigh the balance of interests here towards each other, and they find here that there is trademark violation in this case. And we also have to consider that Diesel is such a reputable trademark. It has such a strong function that it's very, very important that Diesel has some control of the use of their trademark. And the court found that the use of the Diesel mark went beyond what was necessary to inform the Fabric stores that they were selling Diesel products. There would be nothing wrong, of course, on the web page that you could see it was a Diesel product that was being for sale, but the commercial connection between the web shop and Diesel were not allowed by the court. Now, one issue came up. It's going to be my last case here. One issue came up about what is the consequence of actual delivery when something is ordered on the internet. Does that have a consequence for trademark infringement? What basically, there was a guy called Blomqvist who went on a Chinese web page, and he found a non-genuine, and he knew it was non-genuine, Rolex watch. And bought it for a very few euros, a fraction of what a genuine Rolex watch. And he explained in court very clearly that he knew that he was buying a counterfeit product. And the web shop in China packaged the product and ships it off through a postal delivery service. And it stopped in customs. And now the question was, could customs make an action against this? And that's kind of problematic, because what is it that happens here? Somebody buys something in China, so something has been marketed in China, but that's a violation of trademarks in China. Is it a violation of trademarks in the country, in the European Union, where this Mr. Blomqvist was residing? What if he had taken the plane and gone to China, bought the watch in China and gone back? Would that be a violation of trademark rights in the European Union? No, it wouldn't, because he would just be using the watch, and that's not a protected act under trademark law. What is protected is the marketing of goods and services, but that happened in China. And now the risk, when the product has been individualized, it is Mr. Blomqvist's watch. He retains ownership of the watch when the Chinese web shop is shipping off the product. And in accordance with the contract between him and the web shop, the risk of delivery fell upon him. So the web shop has nothing to do with this transaction anymore. So is this in itself a trademark violation? Okay, if the web shop had been marketing in this specific country in the European Union by language, payment options and other things, if there had been this targeting of marketing, that would in itself be a trademark violation. But that was not the question in the case. The question in the case was, is there a violation of the trademark by simply delivering this non-genuine Rolex watch to a consumer in the European Union in a country where the trademark Rolex is protected? And here the European Court of Justice finds that the simple fact that it is being shipped to someone and there is a line that can be followed and the shipping is part of that natural line of actions that ends up by the package being delivered at Mr. Blomqvist's house, that was protected by the trademark, and it was a part of the marketing of the watch that had happened on the web page until it had been received by Mr. Blomqvist. And they disregarded really the questions about ownership, the risk of the product, or anything like that. They disregarded that and simply said, this is something we have to determine only looking at trademark law and disregarding other pieces of legislation. But the simple fact that a web shop was delivering products to a consumer in a place where the trademark was protected, that was an infringement. An infringement from the Chinese web shop, not an infringement of Mr. Blomqvist. Mr. Blomqvist was just a guy buying something. He didn't infringe any trademark law. It was the web shop that infringed trademark law, and then it was legal for the customs office to take action against this postal package. It actually also covered copyright, which makes it even more interesting because the watch is also copyright protected. So it was also found to be a violation of the distribution right under copyright law, which is also stretching copyright law probably to as far as it is possible. Now, what had happened if Mr. Blomqvist had a brother living in China? He had gone in, bought a Rolex watch, and then shipped it off as a private gift to Mr. Blomqvist. That would fall outside the scope of this ruling, because then there would not have been this connection with the seller in China. That would have been cut off, and he would have had no control over this shipment at all. So there has to be this direct connection to the website that is doing the marketing for it to be a violation of trademark rights in the European Union. That was a lot of examples. I hope I haven't bored you too much, and I will stop now. And of course, we can debate on in the coffee break and later today. I'm sure Tobias will have some very interesting examples now on the internet.
Thank you to our presenter.